I stood at the bow looking backward, dry-eyed and imagining that the world in all of its color and grandeur and majesty had been devastated by that same blood I'd seen when I told you that my father was making me leave. It was a midsummer night's eve, and in my heart there was a romance, that same Shakespearean tragedy, that quintessential teenage flickering that let love burn brighter in the reminiscent memories as we slowly fell asleep, cuddling beneath the stars that I wished upon through the cutout at the top of the TV, and doubled by day as an Indian fort, with girls' have cooties stitched across the seams, and at night our secret love affair that the cowboys would have deemed a crime punishable by catgut, and sour faces, and wild, wild west make-believe, old enough to comprehend but young enough to dream. I can still hear the rhythm of your breathing beneath that canopy, while the wind played brush on the snare and God threw his bolts of lightning, like the thunder clapped clave to complement the whistling moving through the trees, and remembered you promising that when we grew up, you'd build a home for me. Now we start growing, and you curl up your fake mustache like your favorite character in your favorite movie and whisper, I'll be your Huckleberry. And in the morning, when I snuck back to my room, I thought tragedy indeed, that innocence, if ever it was, can be stripped away without a warning by king, by grace or by fate or by luck or by mercy. I trust the moon will carry your letters safely to me. This blood rescinding will give way to land depending, and like the hand of God gave olive leaves to encourage that ancient family, my dove, with love and sincerity, and all that I have to offer you, your queen. And my everything! I found your letter inside of a bottle and didn't know what to say. It was broken further down the cove. Ink spilt hallowed but such a shallow grave. Read your poem like it was life in itself. Starved for hope like the waters were too hard to navigate. But it figures, if I was going to build us a home, well then your heart would find its way. It smells of sea salt and your father's favorite poison. And I will never, ever, ever, ever forget that day. College ruled lines clouded by the liquor, like a watercolor painting that had absorbed the spectrum with blue and hue thereof, or like a piece of bread to absorb the damage. That thought of a secret shattered against the seashell and rewrote the story that it would tell to any little girl who might pick up that whitewashed tune, expecting to hear the ocean, listening for the crescendo and crash, but at last she hear the echoes of your whispers. These bottles will carry my heart home, and the currents will be kind, and my lover's letters will return to me, and our children will grow to find that all is not for naught, and though all is not yet healed, their parents, they worked hard for it, and the storms honor their appeals to see that though my father is drowning, his bottles float above the waves, and though I used to dread the water, its waves will be faithful to crash every day until at last I see your face. Things aren't the same. I've been picking up splinters of lumber for the floorboards and wondering about all of our splintered promises. Like even though we didn't have control over their breaking, oaths like those don't account for much. I loved the beach for the way the breath of God rose out of the deep. And I hated the sand, but I tolerated to hold your hand and watch the sun sink into the sea. Feet buried beneath the surface. Molten love buried just beneath the surface, erupting, volcanic, unable to keep beneath the surface that broke like our parents, dormant. Surface level, crater of a marriage that looked more like a coffin every time I read the note that I stole out of my father's casket before it closed. You wrote it to my mother, a woman I'd never met, but it made me feel just like I knew her. And this is what it said.
People will come, Ray.
Dear diary, grandfather's as creaky as his front porch. loads his shotgun beneath the awning, spittoon restless for rain. Carpenter's chair against the whistling air, rocking back and forth, rocking. Snapshot picture worth it, just like the movies. Okay. She said that he loved baseball and James Earl Jones. She said that he's got God talking inside of his thoughts as he's rounding those bases on his way back home. If you build it, they will come, and maybe listens to what the Lord say. But I've been getting pretty worn building for nearly a decade. In a perfect world, we shouldn't have been allowed to lose sight of what it means to love wholly. I got a Polaroid hanging on my wall that a friend took of me and my angel. I remember the day like it's something I can touch, but it's stuck in the square between the borders of the film, and I can run my fingers over our faces, but I can't get back to the places we were. You got a pain deep in your bones, son. It compels you forward like you're tied in a slave master's cruel hand, and it's the same pain that drives that oppressor's heart of stone. So you've grown to love the man. You keep pouring yourself out again and again into legible lines through a crooked pen, and it's painful but it's familiar, and habit breeds comfort, and I don't know what I'd do without it. In the early morning, when you fallen asleep in our home, I drift back into the memories that I've claimed as my own, and wonder if tonight will be a night that I hang on my wall, like I did before we stopped taking photos, out of the habit of being comfortable. In a perfect world, we'll have albums labeled seasons with chapter headings, and we'll staple them to the corkboard that hangs at the foot of the bed. There's longevity in a memory that's spilt out in pen, and if a picture is worth 1,000 words, I've written down every one of them. I work hard, starved toil through the soil for the youth that I see in my friends, but these journals are moments in time, snapshots in our lives, and in retrospect, age is an overexposed photo that the memories can't mend. I know my sweet seductress, and her name is depression. I wrote best beneath that demon's destructive oppression. In those Polaroids, she drove the ink into the canvas like a slave beneath his master's cruel hand. And I hated that whip, but always wondered what I'd do without it. So I grew to love the man, and I wept for change. I begged for movement, and the good Lord, He answered my prayers. But you don't know how to breathe easy when you let go of your habits. Even if your comforts keep gasping for air. Dear time, grandfather's as creaky as his front porch. Set like oil in the gun barrel, dip can kicked over the railing, sandpaper hands stuck behind thumbtacks on my wall. I've got an ache in my chest for every season I miss, and it gets worse when the snow starts to fall. There are butterflies alive in that couple's eyes, a few years since forgotten by all. And sometimes, if the phone starts to ring, I can still hear their wings when you call. I begged for movement and got what I asked for. I picture the answer like it came yesterday, and in the land of the gods, I think that things are timeless, but all of us are still prone to decay. You know, I still lift up hope for certain smiles and those photos for us when I pray. Time is a cruel lover. She breaks her house apart at its bones. You know, comfort is no good reason to stand still. And idle hands build nothing that you can call your own.
I mean to kill you in 1 minute, Ned, or see you hanged in Fort Smith at Judge Parker's convenience.
That's
Which
the
would
Duke.
be? I call it bold talk for a one-eyed fat man. Fill your hand, you son of a...
God, when the sun sets or escapes, well, there is a painter who paints, and when he paints, we just take in the ripples the paints make when they swell against the textures on the page, and name them waves. Back home, my other spends his nights all alone and thinks it's all about perspective and taking my thoughts captive. He'd be captivated by it. It's all counterfeit. It's all functional saviors that don't function or save you. It's all identity trip. It's all grandiose promises exposed as illegitimate. It's the wail my father seeks and swears by like it'll bring unity to our family. It's the way my mother drove away the same day that she drove the man to drink. Called it killing 2 birds with 1 stone, or 3, if you count me. I was a seed. She used to say I was the only beautiful thing that ever blossomed from her branches, and I guess I wasn't beautiful enough to keep. The gun was cocked and loaded years before I ever watched her leave. We always saw her finger on the trigger, trembling. I have heard tales of lovers broken by the bullets that each of us would call our parents. For example, in 50 BC, Parthenius and Nicaea penned the Iranian lover into Narcissus' story, who gutted himself with a sword on the man's doorstep. So, in 8 AD, Ovid found Echo in a mountain crevice, rejected and lonely, until only faint shivers of her whispers remained. And to me, this far removed, they are as clear as the day. With that nymph's voice in my head, here in Poseidon's domain, for all of the fury with which Arminius and that pagan deity prayed, for all of the fiction children believe, and by which we are betrayed, and despite the winds constantly driving and tossing the waves, and all my double-mindedness, I still hear the refrain, this is not your story. When I watch my dad walk starboard, I picture a pirate walking the plank, looking down into the water, terrified, only to see his reflection and fall so madly in love that he dives headfirst into himself and becomes all that I argued with those echoes about what he deserved to be. I picture Nemesis like a John Wayne movie. I know you always love True Grit, but at the end of the script, Maddie still doesn't have her daddy back. I hope that one day we'll be able to forgive, but until then, maybe presence is greater than answers. A revenge. If Zeus cast my mother out to Hades, she'd still be just as gone as she is now. If you sent ghosts to tell me all of the reasons why I still cannot sleep at night, I would be wide awake, listening. If you can hear me, I would rather have you than all of my answers. If you can hear me. If you are listening, if you exist, if you can speak, if you would talk back, if you can hear me, I would still rather have you than every single one of my answers. My love, while you were weighing anchor, I was weighing my options, thinking why, like knowing would satisfy. But if love is true, then the tide will carry mine till you know I drown in the undercurrent before I let myself lose our happy ending. It's the future I miss the most. 17 years from now, I want to be younger and as carefree as I can be. I want you next to me. I want you to reflect all of the best of me. I want the fairy tale, parenthetical port swing, metaphorically morphing our distorted upbringing into enough of a string to hang by to believe I was a man before I got the chance to be a boy. Mother said she wanted neither. Father said I was his joy. He kept on saying things like, enjoy your youth while you can. But when the cancer started taking its toll, the roles reversed, and I cannot fathom what it is like to be eaten alive. He said he had ants beneath his skin, but even then, he'd tell it in a bedtime story. Son, there are colonies of Englishmen with marching orders to see to it that the Indians become just like them, dressed up in distinguished garb to cover up their colors and civilize them. Well, he said, in a similar sense, I've got tuxedo black blood cells, clothing those that bleed red. If you can laugh along with me, the irony is that I will be better dressed than I've ever been when I lie to rest here in bed. And you wondered why that Indian fort was always the one left standing. I made sure the natives won every time we'd play that game. And I had mud clogs filled with rocks that I launched at the backs of those backstabbers. But admittedly, as you can all imagine, it was a short-lived fate. All my neighborhood friends bleeding from their heads and everything. Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who tells you different is selling something. God, it's not true. The Dread Pirate Roberts may have been awesome, but that kind of theology is a hell of a downer to like a secret on a treasure map. However long your voyage, you'll have a place to call home when you come back. The ladder is nailed to the trunk. I started hammering the foundation to be sure that we have something to build our future on. How I long for the day that I get to see your face. My strength, my hope, my song. You are my song. But 12 months ago today, we stood in silence, fading further and further away, and refused to say goodbye for fear that the farewell might solidify our fate. I knocked on every inch of this wooden vessel to keep that fear from coming true. Goodbye is such a definite word, an infinite word, an intimate word, and in case you hadn't heard, there are no waterfalls at the edge of the world that fall off into eternity. Sorry. I'll bring it home scrimshaw to hang from the walls or the branches or the balcony. Father gave me 2 teeth from the beast they harpooned last week, and they've been cleansing the creatures at dock. Well, I've been busy trying to get my feet steady underneath these sea legs. I had a week or more to explore those foreign shores, while the crew and the captain knocked at every brothel door. And I imagine I've got scores of siblings on this island. Since the captain is an island unto himself, give it time. There are 1,000 orphans forgiving their fathers 70 times, 7 times. And I met one of them that week who became a friend of mine. And he reminded me of you. Don't be jealous, he wasn't quite as cute. And now the Indian feathers or the tomahawk that you've been using to build my shelter. And God knows that I'm gonna need it. Shelter. But we followed a road out to the country that he said he'd known about for years and claimed it was haunted. Boys always tell those tales when they want to put their arms around you. Monster films were made for men on first dates. I went along. The landscape stood frigid, frost painted, and I contemplated the warm blanket that you would have been in all that cold. I saw ghosts every time I opened my mouth to breathe in and out and pretended that it was smoke. Like the bubblegum cigarettes that we used to get from the corner store before I died with your dad. Acted like they were opiates before the buffalo dance. The fog was like poetry. Difficult to define, but I am completely indifferent to what it means, so long as all of us are able to get lost in it. The boy and I met a mystic at the top of the mountain. The mist cut her straight in 2, layers over her legs to keep the cold from coming through, but belly up, half a sundress, and she looked at us and said, "Get your head out of the clouds." So with the sun shining down, I've been thinking about what she meant. She gave a speech about separating herself and related it to the whales. Said when the seamen dig their talons in to empty them and burn their substance for oil. Remember, they had to separate to find their true worth. With the white dividing her skeleton frame like a personified worldview, it was the cloudiest case for dualism that I have ever heard of. She told us her feet were evil because they touched the ground, ears guilty by association because they've heard the sound, with a mind wicked that wandered and wondered about music and sex and love and the men in the town below. And I don't know, she sounds like my grandparents trying to distinguish between empty Negro spirituals done damned to hell for a pagan drumbeat and unholy. I just hope that we're a true reflection of some magnanimous other. I won't have to assume that every inherent longing will find me buried alive. You think that if God created everything good, she wouldn't stand up on a mountain proclaiming inanimate objects bad? And do you believe that I am made that way for a reason. When I sit on the pier and wait for that black abyss to swell and spit out your letters, my heart rises and falls with the water, and sometimes I just wish it would swallow me. Heaven, the expanse above the tide rising and beneath the rain falling, and I swear sometimes breathing feels just like drowning, stuck here in between. But when your bottles float in, there is nothing as beautiful as their dim glow, and my heart longs after them. Their colors catch my eye, dank bourbon or molded green protecting white sheets painted with calligraphic handwriting, tainted with damp expressions of the bottle's history, but purely you. I've been thinking about just what beauty is, and no thinking has added beauty to it. All I know is that it points beyond itself. Like I long beyond your love notes, like I long for you. I've seen the entire spectrum refracting off the ripples beneath my bare feet from the edge of this weathered dock, and thought, God, there has got to be more than this. I have no idea what to believe, but beauty pulls me beyond myself like I don't have a choice, and I know I do not believe in nothing. Where, my love, does the beauty inside of a tree reside? Made up of atoms, identical and colorless, where the light of the sun merely vibrates in waves toward our eyes, striking tissues and moving along nerves like a telephone wire to their endings like telephones. I do not know. There is no actual color in the atoms of which the tree is composed, or in those vibrations. Shape, size, color, touch, and the like are simply the names we call our sensations, and no amount of study can ever bring the notion of beauty to the tree. When I don't know how, help me to embrace the mystery. Will you come home? This tree house will not be that without you. You alright? Chapter 8 is from the Father. Today, the first mate told me that my men intend to mutiny, and I have condemned an entire crew in search of a fabled leviathan that we would not have known what to do with had he existed in the first place. But we're sinking, he said, and your daughter is in love with the boy back home, dreaming that she is living his life. She's asleep in the cabin, and if you have even a hint of sobriety in between gulps from that last buoy she'll use to say goodbye, you'll turn this ship around. It's too late. We're drowning. Daughters and fathers just like mine, except they're difference to you. Though if there is a God, know that I will stand before him with no excuse, and I can only assume that he will weep. Tragedy indeed, that innocence, though it never was, could have been. My lady, I have combed every inch of this island looking for the final pieces of wood needed to complete our wooden treehouse. I marked the path with cryptic carvings of arrows for right turns and bayonets for lefts, and eventually it drops off into a waterfall. And you can rest assured that if anyone sniffs out our steps, every adult will sneer and bet that no one would be dull enough to jump off and into it. Like we are growing, but childlikeness is the only way to live. So hand in hand, I will stand for nothing less than dives. Head first, and also backflips, and also gainers. You can do a gainer if you want to. But we're gonna give this whole life everything that we've got, and if that means jumping off of really high rocks and into water, then so be it. And telling ghost stories with our face-painted friends around campfires, but for the love of God, no acoustic guitars. I hate campfire acoustic guitar guys, and we'll have sleepovers and sleep over one another, and you'll get a chance to see your wishes come true beneath the same stars that I heard you whisper to when I pretended to be asleep all those months ago. We've been playing our games, but they're just not the same without my Pocahontas here to rescue me. Somebody always plays your Algonquin dad chief, and I am constantly John Smith, getting my head bashed in with a war club. You'll probably laugh when you read this. You don't hear any of those sounds coming up from Jamestown, man. Virginia is screwed. I think it's my time to come to your rescue. If all of our bottles find their way to one another, then surely our hands can too. I've been sawing off branches to make room for our rooms and pitching them together to keep the moisture from coming through. I lifted a sail from in between the logs, nailed an engine to the trunk, and stood at the front to balance and keep myself from falling off. It's not perfect, but it'll do. I'm gonna ride our house's roof to come and get you, so. The boys set sail and pushed off to sea, stood at the bow looking forward and out into everything, confident. And though we had no idea what the ocean would bring, there are some things that I just know I believe. No matter how irreconcilable they seem. And there are some things that I just hope I believe. No matter how irreconcilable they seem.
Sing to
Something that I always admired most about you. No matter how dark the night, no matter how high the waves, no matter how violent the storm, you never let the world get inside of your boat. You kept living when everyone else was sinking, and this whole life never got a droplet toward pulling you down to the ocean floor. Admittedly, this last bottle has room enough for the last of my heart because I drank the last of it myself. Hated it, by the way. It seems my father could have picked a vice that tasted better than rubbing alcohol, but hey, he gave me his last flask when he came downstairs to say that he wanted things to have been different. And I believed him. He said he needed to go down with the ship, but he wished that I didn't, and I believed him. Listen, the want to die is no longer a foreign thought in my mind. A lot of people want to. I could have died without leaving a note behind. A lot of people do. He started slurring about a memory that he must have caught in the musty air, like a dust particle stuck to the glaze over his eyes when you were 6 years old. I stood inside of our home at a windowsill, watched you walk back from that boy's house down the street. I was sick, and I went back to bed before I thought you saw me, and when I heard you call out, "Daddy," I pretended to be asleep. I just didn't have the energy to get up and keep you from believing in the ghosts that you've seen ever since he finally fixed his gaze. Afraid and said, "Honey, they have been haunting me. I hope that you don't have to see them any longer." I believe him. If I can give you anything, let it be that I have not bid my farewell from the ocean, but from the moment we waved goodnight after our first victory as body-painted newlyweds in a cul-de-sac colony, looking forward to morning, when our parents would let us sail through the quiet neighborhood streets, and the dawn would bring us back together again. We were cowboys, and we were Indians, or we were pilgrims, and none of us ever cared that cowboys didn't come here from England. We were just making our pilgrimage toward the sun, searching for freedom, and rewriting history for everyone, but mostly us. Baby, I'm still playing our game. I'm just sailing for the new world alone this time. I wish I could come back to tell you what I find, but life has never consulted me before making all of these big decisions, and I stand helpless and hopeless unless the beauty you see in the mystery really points to something. I wish we could explore this together. Let me tell you, to die will be an awfully big adventure, but don't get lost. Boy, we have got to talk to one another about this someday. It's time to say goodbye. Such a definite word, an infinite word, an intimate word, but it needs to be heard so that you don't have to wonder why the bottle stopped coming. You need closure to move on. You can't sink with me. You'll get this after I'm gone. And I hope that you can use our treehouse to love someone else once the tide has finally set you free. But don't tell her who you built it for. Make her believe that she's the reason you put all of those hours into protecting the purity of that place. I think that eventually you'll believe it too. I truly do not know whether time heals all wounds. That sounds like wishful thinking. But I do know that you cannot stop living just because someone else has. My love, don't sink. Please. Please promise me that you will not sink. Don't sink. Your queen. lineage together. We didn't want to die in our sleep like so many people wish for. Or at least she did. She thought it sounded boring. And even though dying scared me, I wanted to be brave enough to engage in the fantasy. We decided we'd go out defending our treehouse against the separatists. It was inevitable once they finally discovered us kissing traitorously beneath their cootie-infested, boys-only headquarters. We'd be gunned to death. She thought it was romantic, like Romeo and Juliet, she'd say, and I'd say, okay. I wonder, like I always do, if anyone's actually heard that story. I finished our treehouse with a few scraps of dead wood that I was able to drag back to land. It seemed fitting after our whole lives were broken homes for all the shipwrecked pieces